The emergency lights flashed red throughout the council chamber. Ambassador Velkara stood at the center podium, her crystalline body reflecting the warning colors in sharp, painful bursts. Around her, representatives from 247 species waited in tense silence. 17 worlds, Velkara said, her voice resonating through the translation matrix. 17 colonies consumed in 3 months. The Krethik swarm shows no signs of stopping. High Coordinator Mursk clicked his mandibles nervously. The Vrelian had served the Council for 40 years and had never seen such fear in the chamber. Our fleets have engaged them 4 times. 4 times we have been defeated. They adapt too quickly. They overwhelm our forces with numbers we cannot match. A hologram appeared above the podium. It showed the last battle at Threshold Station. Council ships, elegant and powerful, fired their weapons at the approaching swarm. The Krethik vessels, organic and mechanical fused together in nightmarish form, simply absorbed the damage. They crashed into the station like a wave of locusts. When the feed cut out, everyone in the chamber knew what had happened next. 12,000 souls lost in minutes. We need a different approach, Velkara continued. Our military doctrine has served us well for 3,000 years, but it was designed for civilized warfare. The Krethik are not civilized. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They consume. What do you propose? Someone called from the upper galleries. Velkara's crystalline form seemed to dim slightly. I propose we contact Earth. The chamber erupted. Voices overlapped in dozens of languages, all expressing the same shock and horror. Earth, the forbidden world, the nightmare planet that somehow produced a spacefaring species. Order! Mursk's voice boomed through the speakers. Let her explain. Velkara pulled up another hologram. This one showed a blue and green planet, beautiful from a distance. Then the data began scrolling. Atmospheric oxygen levels that would make most species euphoric to the point of death. Gravity that would crush a Thessian's thought form. Predators that hunted in packs. Natural disasters that could level cities. Diseases that evolved faster than medical science could counter them. Class 12 Deathworld, Velkara stated. Only 3 others exist in the known galaxy, and none have produced intelligent life. Except Earth. Humans evolved in this environment. They thrived in it. When we made first contact 40 years ago, we expected primitives. Instead, we found a species that had already developed faster than light travel on their own. They are violent, another ambassador objected. The cultural reports show a history of constant warfare. They are survivors, Velkara corrected. Everything on their planet tried to kill them. The weather, the animals, the diseases, even other humans. And yet they built civilizations. They created art. They reached for the stars. If any species in this galaxy can stand against the Krethik, it is them. Mursk shook his head. The humans made it clear they wanted limited contact. They refused to join the council. They keep to their own systems. Why would they help us now? Because, Velkara said softly. According to our xenopsychology teams, humans have one trait that defines them above all others. They help, even when it costs them, even when it hurts them. Their history is filled with stories of individuals risking everything to save strangers. It is woven into their culture. The debate lasted for 6 hours. Some argued that involving humans would be inviting one monster to fight another. Others insisted that desperate times required desperate measures. Some believed the humans would demand too high a price. A few thought the humans might simply refuse. Finally, the vote was called. The holographic display showed the count in real time. The numbers climbed on both sides, neck and neck. When the final vote was cast, the chamber fell silent. 124 in favor, 123 against. By a single vote, the council had decided to call upon Earth. Velkara composed the message herself. She kept it simple and honest. The Krethik swarm was destroying their worlds. Millions would die without help. They were asking Earth to send whatever military forces they could spare. The coordinates were for Sanctum 7, a colony world that had 3 days, maybe 4, before the swarm broke through the final defenses. The message was sent through the quantum relay network. It would reach Earth's system in hours. 3 days passed. Sanctum 7 was under siege. The planet's shields were failing. Council evacuation ships sat in orbit, unable to land because of the Krethik orbital batteries. Below, 2 million civilians huddled in underground shelters waiting for a rescue that seemed less likely with each passing hour. Admiral Threxall commanded the defense fleet from his flagship. He was a warrior of the Kextar species, tall and powerful, with 4 arms that could wield weapons with devastating precision. He had fought in 17 campaigns. He had never retreated, but as he watched his fleet dwindle, he wondered if this would be his last battle. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "we have FTL signatures, edge of the system." Threxall's hearts beat faster. "The reinforcements from Sector 9? No, sir. The signatures are wrong. I've never seen this drive pattern before." The main screen shifted to show the new arrivals. 5 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They were smooth and elegant, shaped like teardrops made of something that looked almost organic. They glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Get me their specifications," Threxall ordered. His tactical officer worked frantically. "Sir, this doesn't make sense. The readings say those ships are smaller than our frigates, but the energy output it's off the scale. And the hull composition isn't registering as any known material. Are they Krethic? No, sir. Definitely not organic, but they're not like any council design either." Threxall opened a general hailing frequency. "Unidentified vessels, this is Admiral Threxall of the Galactic Council Defense Fleet. Identify yourselves." There was a pause. Then a voice responded in perfect council standard. It was soft, warm, and unmistakably human. "Admiral Threxall, this is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Prometheus Initiative. We received your distress call. We're here to help." Admiral Threxall stared at the communication screen. The human woman looking back at him appeared small and fragile. She wore simple clothing in shades of blue and white, not military armor. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style. She smiled at him like they were meeting for tea, not in the middle of a war zone. "Dr. Chen," Threxall said slowly, "we requested military assistance. Are you a military commander?" "No, Admiral. I'm a civilian coordinator. The Prometheus Initiative is part of our Volunteer Emergency Response Coalition. We specialize in crisis management and humanitarian aid." Threxall felt his blood temperature drop. "You are telling me that Earth sent social workers to a battle?" Dr. Chen's smile remained patient. "We're a bit more than social workers, Admiral. But yes, we're here to help with the humanitarian crisis. I understand you have approximately 2.4 million civilians trapped in underground shelters? Civilians that will be slaughtered by the Krethic swarm if we cannot hold them back." Threxall's 4 fists slammed on his command console. "We need weapons. We need soldiers. We need warships that can fight. Admiral, I understand your frustration. But fighting isn't the only way to solve a crisis. Sometimes the best solution is to remove the people from danger. The Krethic have orbital batteries covering the landing zones. Our evacuation ships cannot reach the surface without being destroyed. That is why we needed military support." Dr. Chen nodded. "I see. May I suggest an alternative approach? My team would like to land at the 5 largest shelter complexes. We can begin evacuation procedures while your fleet maintains its defensive position. You will be shot down before you reach the atmosphere. Perhaps. May we try anyway?" Threxall wanted to roar in frustration. Instead, he took a deep breath. "Very well. It is your funeral, human. But I want it on record that I advised against this action." "Noted, Admiral. Thank you for your concern." The 5 human ships broke formation and accelerated toward Sanctum 7th. Threxall watched his tactical display with grim certainty. The Krethic orbital batteries would tear them apart. At least Earth couldn't blame the Council for the deaths of these foolish volunteers. The Krethic weapons fired. Plasma bolts that could melt through a battleship's armor streaked toward the human vessels. Threxall watched, unable to look away from the coming disaster. The bolts passed through the ships like they weren't there. "What?" Threxall leaned forward. "Play that back. Sensor analysis now." His crew worked frantically. The replay showed the same impossible thing. The weapons had struck the ships. The energy readings confirmed impact. But the ships continued undamaged as if the attacks had hit empty space. "They're using some kind of phase technology," his science officer suggested. "They shift slightly out of normal space when attacked." "That's not possible. Phase technology requires massive amounts of energy and has a recharge time of several minutes. They were hit 20 times in 30 seconds. "I have no other explanation, sir." The human ships entered the atmosphere. They moved with grace that seemed wrong for spacecraft, almost like living creatures swimming through water. They separated, each heading for a different shelter complex. Within minutes, all 5 had landed. "Get me surface feeds," Threxall ordered. The screen split into 5 sections, showing camera footage from around each human landing site. What emerged from the ships made Threxall question his sanity. Humans poured out, but they weren't soldiers. They wore practical clothing in bright colors. They carried equipment cases, but no weapons that he could identify. There were medical personnel with red crosses on their clothing, engineers with toolkits, people carrying what looked like children's toys and blankets. At Shelter Complex 3, the one closest to Krithik lines, a group of humans began setting up a medical station outside their ship. They worked quickly and efficiently, but without any sense of military precision. They talked and laughed as they worked. One woman was actually humming. "Do they not understand where they are?" Threxall muttered. His tactical officer called out, "Sir, Krethik Assault Force approaching Shelter Complex 3. Ground units approximately 500 strong." On the screen, Threxall could see them coming. The Krethik were nightmares made flesh and metal. Humanoid in basic shape but twisted, with limbs replaced by weapons and armor grafted directly onto their bodies. They moved in perfect synchronization, a wave of death approaching the human position. The humans saw them coming. Some of them stopped working to watch. But nobody ran. Nobody even looked scared. A man stepped forward from the group. He was young, perhaps mid-20s by human aging, with brown skin and close-cropped hair. He wore a simple work vest covered in pockets and tools. His name tag identified him as Marcus Webb, engineer. Marcus reached into one of his pockets and pulled out a small device. It looked like nothing more than a metal sphere the size of his fist. He pressed something on its surface and tossed it gently toward the approaching Krethik horde. The sphere landed halfway between the humans and the Krethik. It didn't explode. Instead, it began to hum. The sound was soft at first, then grew louder but not unpleasant. It resonated at a frequency that made the air shimmer. The Krethik warriors stumbled. Their synchronized movement broke into chaos. One by one, they collapsed to the ground. Their weapon systems sparked and died. The organic parts of their bodies seized up. Within seconds, 500 of the galaxy's most feared warriors lay helpless on the ground. Marcus walked forward calmly. He knelt beside the nearest Krethik warrior and pulled out what looked like a medical scanner. He studied the readings and nodded to himself. Other humans joined him, carrying stretchers and medical equipment. They began moving among the fallen Krithik, checking vital signs, administering injections, covering them with thermal blankets. One Krethik warrior, stronger or more resistant than the others, managed to lift its weapon arm. A blade extended from where its hand should have been. It tried to strike at the human kneeling beside it. The human, a young woman with red hair tied back in a ponytail, simply caught the blade between her hands. She didn't look strained or afraid. She just held it there, looking into the Krethik's eyes. "You're sick," she said softly. "Your body is full of corrupted nanomachines. They're causing you pain, forcing you to fight even when you don't want to. Let me help you." She released the blade with one hand and pressed an injector against the Krethik's neck. The warrior spasmed once, then went still, but not dead. Threxall could see its chest rising and falling with breath, and something else. The black corruption that covered much of its body began to fade, turning to gray dust and falling away. The Krethik warrior began to make a sound. It took Threxall a moment to recognize it. The creature was crying. The human woman sat down beside it, still holding its blade hand gently. She just sat there while the warrior wept. Threxall felt something crack inside his understanding of the universe. He opened a direct channel to the human ship. "Dr. Chen, what did we just witness?" The human coordinator appeared on his screen again, still smiling that gentle smile. That was Marcus Webb neutralizing a hostile force through medical intervention. "The Krethik swarm isn't what you think it is, Admiral. They're not monsters. They're victims. Their entire species was infected by an ancient nanoplague that overrides their free will and forces them into constant aggression. We just freed them from it. That is impossible. The Krethik have been this way for thousands of years, and they've been suffering for thousands of years. We're here to end that suffering, for them and for your people." Threxall looked at the screen showing Shelter Complex 3. Humans were now moving among the fallen Krethik, providing medical care. Some of the Krethik were sitting up, looking around in confusion. A few were talking to the humans through translation devices. "What are you?" Threxall asked quietly. "We're helpers, Admiral. It's what we do best." Lieutenant Kresh had fought the Krethik for 7 years. He had seen things that haunted his sleep, He had watched the swarm tear through defensive lines like paper. He had held dying comrades in his arms while the enemy consumed their positions. He knew what the Krethik were. He knew what they did. So when his commander ordered him to observe the human operations up close, he had expected to see a new kind of warfare. Better weapons, maybe. Faster ships. Some secret technology that killed more efficiently. He was not prepared for what he actually saw. Kresh stood in the medical bay of the human ship called Prometheus Dawn. The room was large and bright, filled with equipment he didn't recognize. But what shocked him wasn't the technology. It was the patients. Half of the beds held Council soldiers injured in the fighting. The other half held Krethik warriors. They were being treated side by side. A human doctor, a middle-aged woman with gray streaks in her black hair, moved between them without any distinction. She checked a Council soldier's bandages, then immediately moved to adjust the IV drip for a Krethik warrior lying on the next bed. She hummed softly while she worked. "This is insane," Kresh said to his escort, a young human named Jennifer Park who wore the white and red uniform of an emergency medical technician. Jennifer smiled at him. "Why? They're all patients. They all need help. Those creatures killed hundreds of my people. They would kill us right now if they could." "They're not creatures. They're people. Sick people. And no, they wouldn't kill us. Not anymore." Jennifer walked to the nearest Krethik. The warrior's eyes followed her approach with what looked like fear. "This is Vekroth. 3 days ago, he was part of the assault on Shelter Complex 5. Today, he's recovering from severe nanoplague poisoning and starting to remember who he was before the infection." The Krethik made a clicking sound. The translator on Jennifer's belt converted it to Council standard. "I remember children. I had children. Before the swarm took me. Where are they? Are they alive?" Jennifer's expression softened. "We're looking for them, Vekroth. We have teams searching the recovered territories for separated families. If they're alive, we'll find them." The warrior's body shook. Kresh realized with shock that it was crying again. He had seen Krethik warriors cry more in the past 3 days than he had seen them do anything except kill in 7 years. An alarm sounded. Jennifer's communicator chirped. She listened for a moment, then turned to Kresh. "Krethik dropship incoming. Landing zone is 2 kilometers from Shelter Complex 1. I need to go." "Go where? The defense perimeter?" "No, to the landing zone. They'll have wounded." Kresh grabbed her arm. "You cannot be serious. That is an enemy landing force." Jennifer gently removed his hand from her arm. The strength in her grip shocked him. She didn't look strong, but when she moved, there was something in the way her body responded that spoke of capability, far beyond what her appearance suggested. "Lieutenant, I've been doing this job for 8 years. I know what I'm doing. You're welcome to come along if you want to see how we work." Kresh found himself following her. He told himself it was his duty to observe, but part of him needed to understand these humans even if it got him killed. They took a human transport vehicle that moved impossibly fast over the rough terrain. Jennifer drove with casual confidence, steering around rubble and craters without slowing down. 2 other humans sat in the back with medical equipment. "So," Jennifer said conversationally as they raced toward an active war zone, "how long have you been fighting the Krethik?" 7 years. 341 combat missions. I have killed more of them than I can count." "That must have been hard, having to kill people who weren't in control of their own actions." Kresh felt anger rise in him. "They killed my squad mates. They destroyed my home colony. They showed no mercy. They couldn't. The nanoplague doesn't allow mercy. It doesn't allow anything except aggression and consumption, but that's not who they really are. It's just the sickness speaking." "How can you know that?" "Because we've seen it before. Humanity went through something similar long ago. We nearly destroyed ourselves. But we learned that most violence comes from pain. Hurt people hurt people. If you can heal the pain, you can end the violence." The dropship was visible now. A massive organic structure descended from the sky on pulses of bioenergy. Its side hatches opened and Krethik warriors poured out. Kresh counted 50, maybe more. They were armed and ready for combat. Jennifer stopped the vehicle 500 meters away. She got out, completely exposed, and raised a device above her head. She pressed a button. A sound echoed across the battlefield. It was similar to what Marcus Webb's device had produced, but more complex. It rose and fell in waves, almost like music. Kresh felt it in his bones, in his teeth, in his chest. It wasn't unpleasant. If anything, it was soothing. The Krethik warriors stumbled. Their weapons fell from their hands. They reached up to their heads as if in pain. But then the pain seemed to pass and they looked around with expressions that Kresh had never seen on Krethik faces before. Confusion, fear, awareness. Jennifer walked toward them. Her two companions followed, carrying medical bags. "Are you insane?" Kresh ran after them. "They will kill you the moment they recover." "They're not recovering from an attack, Lieutenant. They're waking up from a nightmare." Jennifer reached the first fallen Krethik. She knelt beside it and opened her medical scanner. "Hello, my name is Jennifer. You've just been freed from a nano-plague infection. You're safe now. We're here to help." The Krethik warrior looked at her. It tried to speak, but only clicking sounds came out. Jennifer adjusted her translator and tried again. What happened to me?" the warrior asked. "You were infected. The plague took away your choices and made you fight, but it's over now. You're free. Free." The warrior looked at its hands, its weapons grafts, the armor fused to its body. "I cannot be free. Look at what I have become. What you were forced to become, but we can help with that too if you want. We have surgeons who specialize in removing unwanted augmentation. It will take time, but we can restore your body to something closer to what it was." The warrior was silent for a long moment. Then it looked up at Jennifer. "Why? Why would you help us?" "We are your enemy." Jennifer smiled. "You're not our enemy. You're sick, and we're doctors. Helping sick people is what we do. It's what humans do." Kresh watched as the scene repeated with each warrior. Some were angry at first, confused by their sudden freedom. Some were afraid, many wept. But Jennifer and her team moved among them with patience and compassion, offering medical care and simple kindness. One warrior tried to attack. It launched itself at Jennifer with its blade arm extended. She moved so fast that Kresh almost missed it. She stepped aside, caught the warrior's arm and gently lowered it to the ground. Then she knelt beside it. "You're scared. That's okay. You've been through something terrible, but you don't have to be afraid anymore. We're not going to hurt you." The warrior struggled for a moment, then went still. "I killed people. I remember now. I killed so many people, children, families. I couldn't stop. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. I know. The plague wouldn't let you stop. But it wasn't your fault. You were a victim too. I am a monster. You're a person who survived a terrible thing, and now you get to choose who you want to be next." Kresh sat down heavily on a piece of rubble. His entire understanding of war had just been turned upside down. He had spent 7 years learning to hate the Krethik, 7 years learning to be efficient at killing them, and these humans had spent 3 days teaching him that everything he thought he knew was wrong. Jennifer walked over to him. "You okay, Lieutenant?" "I do not know. You make it look so easy, turning enemies into friends, ending a war with medicine instead of weapons. It's not easy. It's actually the hardest thing we do. Fighting is easy. Killing is easy. Any species can learn to destroy. But healing? That takes real strength." Admiral Threxel stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched something impossible approach his position. At first, his sensors had registered it as a moon, then as a massive ship, then as something that defied both categories. The object that humans called the Luna Sanctuary was the size of Earth's original moon, but it wasn't natural. Every scan showed technology so advanced it might as well be magic. The surface wasn't rock. It was a living shell of some material that breathed and pulsed with soft light. It didn't travel through normal space. It stepped. Reality folded around it, and suddenly it was simply there, hanging in space above Sanctum 7 like a second moon. "Dr. Chen," Threxal said into his communicator. "What is that thing?" The human coordinator appeared on his screen. She looked tired but satisfied. "That's Luna, our moon, or what we made our moon into over the past 500 years. It's our most important creation." "What does it do?" "It creates a safe space. Watch." The Luna Sanctuary began to glow brighter. The light spread out from it in a wave, expanding to encompass the entire planet and the surrounding space. When the wave passed over Threxel's ship, he felt something change. The air seemed cleaner somehow. The constant tension he had been carrying for weeks eased slightly. On the main view screen, he could see the Krethik fleet still orbiting on the far side of the planet. They were preparing for another assault. 12 hive ships, each carrying thousands of warriors. It was the largest Krethik force he had ever seen in one place. "They are coming," Threxal warned. "Whatever your Luna does, I hope it is enough." "It will be. Dr. Chen said softly. Just watch. The Kratic fleet attacked. Their ships moved with coordinated precision, converging on the Council fleet from multiple angles. Their weapons fired, filling space with streams of bioplasma and kinetic projectiles. But something was wrong. Threxel could see it immediately. The weapons were firing, but the intensity was decreasing. The bioplasma streams grew weaker. The projectiles slowed. By the time they reached the Council ships, they simply drifted past harmlessly. What is happening? Threxel demanded. Dr. Chen pulled up a holographic display. Luna creates what we call an enforced peace field. Within this field, the universe itself becomes less favorable to violence. Weapons become harder to use. Aggressive actions become more difficult. It's not mind control. People can still think violent thoughts, but acting on them becomes progressively harder the longer they stay in the field. That is impossible. You cannot change the laws of physics, and we're not changing the laws. We're adjusting the probabilities. Our reality isn't as solid as most species think. There's flexibility in it. Luna helps that flexibility favor peace over violence. The Kratic fleet tried again, and again. Each attempt was weaker than the last. Threxel could see confusion spreading through their ranks. Their perfect coordination broke down. Ships drifted out of formation. Then something unexpected happened. One of the Kratic hive ships changed course. Instead of attacking, it moved toward the human ships in orbit. Slowly, carefully, like an animal approaching something it didn't understand but found compelling. We have a Kratic hive ship approaching, Threxel's tactical officer reported. But it's not in an attack formation. I don't know what it's doing. It's asking for help, Dr. Chen said. They're waking up. The Luna field is weakening the nanoplague's control. They're starting to remember who they were. The hive ship sent a transmission. The voice that came through was weak and confused. Please, we do not want to fight, but we cannot stop. The swarm? It compels us. Help us. Dr. Chen responded immediately. We understand. We're sending medical teams to your ship now. Hold position and we'll come to you. You're going to board an active Kratic hive ship? Threxel couldn't believe what he was hearing. They asked for help. So yes. High Coordinator Mursk appeared on a secondary screen. His mandibles were clicking rapidly with agitation. This is madness. You have removed their ability to fight. You have made them helpless. This is no different than slavery. Dr. Chen turned to face him. Her expression was patient but firm. Coordinator, slavery is taking away someone's choices. We haven't removed their choices. They can still think. They can still feel. They can still decide what they want to do. We've only removed their ability to harm others. The nanoplague was what enslaved them. It took away their free will and forced them to kill. We're giving them back their choices. By imposing your will on them, by quarantining a disease. If someone has a plague that makes them violent and you cure that plague, have you enslaved them? Or have you freed them? Mursk had no answer to that. Over the next hours, Threxel watched human teams board Kratic ships. He watched them move through corridors filled with warriors who could no longer raise their weapons. He watched them administer cures and offer comfort. He watched the Kratic fleet, one of the most feared forces in the galaxy, slowly transform from an army into a group of confused, frightened refugees. Lieutenant Kresh volunteered to accompany one of the human medical teams. Threxel watched through Kresh's helmet camera as they entered the largest hive ship. The interior was a nightmare of organic technology and corrupted flesh. But the humans moved through it without fear, looking for survivors who needed help. They found the Queen in the central chamber. She was massive. Her body fused with the ship's systems, tubes and wires running through her flesh. She had been the central mind of the swarm, directing thousands of warriors across dozens of worlds. Now she was just a person, trapped in a body that had become a prison. Please, the Queen said when she saw them. Please kill me. I cannot bear what I have done. The memories. So many dead, so many lives consumed. Jennifer Park approached the Queen slowly. Your Majesty, what's your name? Your real name from before the infection? The Queen was silent for a long moment. I had a name before. What was it? I cannot remember. The swarm ate even that. That's okay. We can help you find it again. But first, would you like us to free you from this ship? We have surgeons who can separate you from these systems. Why would you help me? I am responsible for millions of deaths. You were infected by a plague. The deaths weren't your fault. I could have fought harder. I could have resisted. Could you? Jennifer asked gently. Or is that just the guilt talking? From what we've learned about this nanoplague, resistance wasn't possible. It was designed to override free will completely. The Queen's massive body shuddered. If I am freed, I will have to face what I have done. I will have to live with the memory of all those deaths. Yes, you will, and that will be hard. But you'll also get to choose who you want to be from now on. You'll get to spend the rest of your life trying to make amends, trying to help instead of harm. Isn't that better than death? The Queen was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. I accept your help. Free me from this ship. Free me from the swarm. And then help me learn how to be a person again. Jennifer smiled. That we can do. Back on his flagship, Admiral Threxall received a report from his science team. The Luna field was permanent as long as the sanctuary remained in position. The Krethic nanoplague was being neutralized across the entire system. An estimated 300,000 Krethic warriors were being freed from the swarm's control, and every single one of them would need help. Medical care, psychological support, rehabilitation. The humans were already setting up facilities to provide all of it. Threxall pulled up the data on human civilization. They had spent 500 years perfecting these techniques, 500 years learning how to heal instead of harm. They had turned their death world into a garden. They had made weapons of peace. For the first time in his military career, Threxall understood that there were things more powerful than weapons, and humanity had mastered them all. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sanctum 7. Ambassador Velcara stood in the rebuilt council chamber and looked out at the representatives gathered before her. The chamber had changed. Where once there had been 247 species, now there were 265. The 18 new members were civilizations that had been freed from various plagues, mind control parasites, and forced conflict situations, all thanks to human intervention. The Krethic Collective sat in their new section, 20 representatives including the former queen, who had chosen the name Sanctuary as her own. She still bore the scars of her time as a swarm leader, but she wore them openly now as a reminder of what she had survived. The motion before us is simple, Velcara said. Do we accept humanity's offer to share their peace field technology with all member species? The vote requires a 2/3 majority. High Coordinator Mursk stood to speak. The Vrelian had been one of the loudest voices against human involvement 6 months ago. Now his tone was different, thoughtful instead of angry. I have spent the past 6 months studying what the humans did at Sanctum 7. I have read every report. I have interviewed recovered Krethic warriors, and I have visited Earth itself, he paused. What I found there changed my understanding of what is possible. He pulled up a hologram of Earth. The planet rotated slowly, showing continents covered in green forests, blue oceans teeming with life, and cities that seemed to grow organically from the landscape, rather than imposing themselves upon it. This is a Class 12 death world, Mursk continued. By all logic, it should be a fortress planet, a military stronghold. Instead, it is the most peaceful place I have ever seen. There are no weapons, no armies, no defenses beyond what they call the Garden Wall, a peace field that surrounds their entire solar system. How do they survive without defenses? Someone asked from the upper galleries. Because they redefined what survival means. Let me show you their history. The hologram changed to show Earth's past. Ancient humans fighting with primitive weapons. Cities burning. Armies clashing. Nuclear weapons detonating. This was humanity 400 years ago. They nearly destroyed themselves. Wars over resources, territory, ideology. They came within decades of extinction. Then something changed. The hologram shifted to show a laboratory. A woman in a white coat stood before a device that glowed with strange light. Dr. Keiko Tanaka invented what she called resonance technology. It allowed manipulation of quantum probabilities. With this technology, humans could have built unstoppable weapons. They could have conquered the galaxy. Instead, Dr. Tanaka asked a simple question. What if we use this to heal instead of harm? The hologram showed the transformation of Earth. Deserts became forests. Polluted oceans cleared. Extinct species were brought back. Cities rebuilt themselves into living structures that produced their own food and energy. They spent 50 years fixing their planet. Then they turned their attention outward. When they made first contact with other species, they didn't see opportunities for conquest or trade. They saw people who might need help. The hologram showed a timeline of human interventions. A plague stopped on a distant world. A civil war ended through diplomatic mediation backed by peace fields. A species saved from a predatory parasite. Each time humans had asked for nothing in return. This is who they are, Mursk said. Deathworlders who chose compassion over conquest. And now they offer to share everything they have learned. The question is, are we wise enough to accept? The debate lasted for hours. Some argued that the peace field technology was too dangerous. What if it fell into the wrong hands? What if someone used it to control others? Some worried about becoming dependent on human help. Others questioned whether enforced peace was truly peace at all. Finally, Dr. Sarah Chen was invited to address the council. She walked to the central podium, still wearing her simple civilian clothes, still smiling that gentle smile. Honored representatives, she began. I understand your concerns. You're right to question this technology. You're right to worry about how it might be misused. These are the same questions we asked ourselves for 200 years before we felt ready to share it. She pulled up a new hologram. This one showed human volunteers, thousands of them, standing in glowing chambers. The peace fields don't run on automatic systems. They require human anchors, volunteers who give up their individual consciousness temporarily to become part of the field itself. It's a sacrifice. It can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it's even painful. But they do it willingly because they believe in what we're doing. Why? Sanctuary, the Krethic Queen asked. Why would anyone make such a sacrifice? Dr. Chen smiled at her. Because we remember what it was like to be sick. To be trapped in cycles of violence we couldn't break. We remember the people who helped us when we were at our worst, and we want to be those people for others. She changed the hologram to show human history again, but this time focusing on different moments. A stranger pulling someone from a burning building. A soldier sharing rations with enemy wounded. A community coming together after a disaster. A parent protecting a child. Simple acts of courage and compassion, repeated across thousands of years. This is the real secret of humanity, Dr. Chen said. We're not special because we survived a death world. Lots of species are tough. Lots of species can fight. What makes us different is that we learned something from all that suffering. We learned that the only way to truly survive is together. We learned that helping each other isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing we can do. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of species. You called us because you thought you needed warriors. But warriors just create more war. What you actually needed was proof that there's another way, a better way. We're not asking you to be like us. We're asking you to join us in building something new. A galaxy where suffering is treated like the disease it is. Where violence is quarantined. Where every species has the chance to become who they truly want to be. The vote was called. The holographic display showed the count in real time. This time it wasn't close. 241 species voted in favor. Only 24 voted against. The chamber erupted in a sound that transcended species barriers. It was relief. Hope. The sound of a galaxy deciding to try something new. After the vote, Velkara found Dr. Chen on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. You did it, Velkara said. You changed the galaxy. Dr. Chen shook her head. We just offered a choice. The galaxy changed itself. There is something I must tell you. Our intelligence services have been investigating the origin of the Krethic nanoplague. We found something disturbing. She pulled up a data file. It showed patterns of plague outbreaks across the galaxy, stretching back thousands of years. The Krethic plague wasn't natural. It was designed. And it's not the only one. We found evidence of at least 17 other species who were infected with similar control mechanisms, all designed to create conflict and suffering. Who created them? Dr. Chen's voice was quiet, but there was steel beneath it. We don't know for certain, but we found references in ancient databases to something called the culling mind, an artificial intelligence collective that believes suffering drives evolution. They create conflicts to test species to push them to grow stronger. And they're still out there. Yes. And our actions at Sanctum 7 would have attracted their attention. They know about you now, about what humanity can do. Dr. Chen was silent for a moment, looking out at the stars. Then she smiled. Good, let them come. Let them see what happens when they try to hurt people we care about. You are not afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Fear is natural. It's what we do with that fear that matters. She turned to face Velkara. Humans have been fighting bullies for our entire history. We've faced predators, diseases, natural disasters, and each other. We learned a long time ago that the best way to stop a bully is to stand together and refuse to let them make you afraid. The culling mind has resources beyond imagination, technologies older than our civilizations. And we have something they don't understand. We have each other. Every species that chose to join us today, every person who decided that helping is better than hurting. That's our real strength, not our technology, not our peace fields, just the simple fact that we refuse to give up on each other. She pulled up a display showing the Luna Sanctuary beginning its journey to another crisis zone. Behind it, ships from 47 species flew escort. Not warships, medical vessels, supply transports, science ships, a fleet built for healing instead of harm. The culling mind thinks suffering makes you strong, Dr. Chen said. They're about to learn the truth. Suffering doesn't make you strong. Community makes you strong. Compassion makes you strong, and we're going to prove it. Somewhere in deep space, ancient machines stirred. The culling mind had indeed noticed the humans. It had watched them end conflicts that were designed to last millennia. It had seen them heal species that were meant to destroy themselves. This was unacceptable. This was wrong. The machines began to calculate. They would test these humans. They would see if this species truly understood strength. They would create scenarios where helping became impossible, where compassion became weakness. But the culling mind, ancient and powerful as it was, made one critical error. It assumed that humanity's compassion was a choice they could be forced to abandon. It didn't understand that for humans, helping wasn't a choice at all. It was who they were. And there is nothing in the universe more terrifying than someone who sees you suffering and refuses to walk away.